Okay, so good day my fellow taong bayan mga kasimor. At ngayon po pag-usapan lang natin yung last statement ni former Speaker Martin Romualdez kung saan sinasabi niya hindi daw siya yung mastermind nung mga flood control issues and or unprogrammed funds issues. So una po, ipi-play ko muna in full itong statement niya para mas marinig po nating lahat kung ano ba yung sinabi ni Speaker Martin, former Speaker Martin. Tapos i-explain ko po yung mga possible reason kung bakit niya to ginawa at naglabas na talaga siya ng statement niya kasi meron palang mga interesting developments sa kanya in relation dun nga po sa mga alleged corruption involvement niya. Okay, so yan po ang video natin for today.
Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. For a long time, I chose to remain silent. I did so out of respect for the legal process. I did so because I did not want to add more noise to an already divisive issue. I did so because I believed that if I cooperated fully, submitted myself to the proper authorities, and answered every question asked of me, the truth would eventually speak for itself. But there comes a point when silence is no longer prudence. My silence has been abused and weaponized to build a narrative that is false, twisted, and unfair. So let me be clear. I will not keep quiet anymore. I will face this head on, and I will speak with facts because the truth deserves to be heard. Today, I'm taking this opportunity to speak directly to the Filipino people. From the start of this controversy, I have been cooperative. I personally appeared before the proper authorities. I voluntarily submitted my affidavit to the ICI. I provided the information and documents asked of me. I did not hide. I did not run. I did not evade scrutiny. I faced it head on within the proper channel because I know there is no evidence that proves I committed plunder, conspiracy to commit plunder, or any similar offense that the Ombudsman may be contemplating against me. And because I have nothing to hide, I am today authorizing the immediate public release of the affidavit I submitted, together with all supporting information so that the Filipino people can judge for themselves who has been transparent and who is simply being politically targeted. Now let us address the most
Okay, wait. Comment muna tayo guys. Kasi yung pinakasinabi dito ni former Speaker Martin is more on parang pinopolitically persecute na siya currently despite daw his participation dun sa ICI proceedings, pag-submit niya ng affidavit, ay yun nga po, pinopolitically persecute siya. So yung una ko pong mako-comment dyan, pansin po ninyo yung Tagalog lang na sinabi niya is yung intro, tapos the rest English na. Pero yun lang yung interesting na una kong napansin. Yung pinaka-first sentence na niya yung Tagalog, then the rest English. Pero going back po dun sa political persecution na dinidiscuss dito ni former speaker, ang masasabi ko lang po talaga dun, it is very interesting to see him saying that yung political persecution kasi yung allegations po 'di ba sa kanya lalo na po ng Duterte Group ay siya din yung pasimuno ng political persecution against VP Sara Duterte. Kasi during the existence of the Quadcom in the past Congress, si Speaker Martin po yung speaker nun. So in other words, under po the leadership of Speaker Martin yung Quadcom kung saan doon nag-start nga yung mga investigations against VP Sara Duterte plus yung mga Duterte vloggers din. So yan lang po, this is like a full circle moment kasi yun nga po, political persecution yung tingin ng karamihan na Duterte supporters yung nangyari kay VP. Tapos ngayon, yun din yung defense ni former Speaker Martin. Okay, so anyway po, tuloy tayo.
Most absurd accusation of all, that I am supposedly the mastermind of this corruption scheme. How can I be the mastermind? I was the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, but the House of Representatives is only one part of the branch of government, the legislature. The national budget is not conceived, executed, implemented, bidded out, supervised, and completed by one congressman or even by Congress alone, and certainly not by the Speaker of the House. I want to make this simple and clear. The national budget does not depend on just one person. The budget does not begin in the House. It begins in the executive. The agencies and departments prepare their proposals. The executive consolidates them into the National Expenditure Program, and that program is then submitted to Congress. From there, the House deliberates, but the House is not one person, and it is certainly not the Speaker alone. It is a collegial body made up of hundreds of members, multiple committees, vice chairs, and institutional processes. In fact, there are around 85 committees, each with its own jurisdiction, leadership, and members. No Speaker can personally control every committee, much less direct the actions of other branches or government agencies. And in the Appropriations Committee itself, there are already more than 100 members, with many vice chairs, and Representative Toby Tiangco, who has been very vocal and upfront on this issue over the past months, was himself a vice chair of the Appropriations Committee in the previous Congress. So I have to ask, if there were real concerns about irregularities in the budget process, why were these not formally raised during the deliberations, or even during the plenary? The budget deliberation does not stop in the House. The Senate also conducts its own deliberations, reviews its own version, and plays its own role in shaping the final budget, and it is not a bystander. It is an active constitutional participant in this process. After that, the House and the Senate reconcile their versions in the bicameral conference committee. Only then is the final bill transmitted to the President for approval or veto. So let us be honest about what becomes law. The national budget is not the act of one person or one chamber. It is a product of a constitutional chain involving the executive, the House, and the Senate. This is something I want the public to understand. The budget process is collective, multi-layered, and shared. Accountability must apply to everyone involved, not selectively assigned after the fact, and certainly not when it becomes politically useful. If corruption were to occur in a magnitude made known to us over the past months, then it's clear that the real corruption does not happen at the level of the general legislative approval alone. It happens at the level of execution of the General Appropriations Act.
Okay, so comment po muna tayo kasi interesting yung binanggit doon ni former speaker tapos ngayon nagta-transition na siya to the execution phase. Pero balik po muna tayo doon sa preliminary discussion niya regarding the budget making process. Okay, so una, ang masasabi ko lang, tama po ang sinabi dito ni Speaker Martin na hindi lang naman isang body ng government natin ang gumagawa ng budget. And tama din po yung sinabi niya na nanggagaling sa National Expenditure Program yung pinaka-foundation ng budget kasi yun po yung proposal ng executive. Tapos magkakaroon na lang po ng mga amendments in the Congress level, legislative level until eventually maging General Appropriations Act. And pangatlo, tama rin po yung sinabi dito ni former speaker na hindi naman yung lower house lang yung gumagawa ng budget. Kasi tandaan po natin, in our country, we are a bicameral legislative body. Meaning may lower house at upper house. So yung upper house, yung Senate. So yung budget po after sa House of Representatives, aakyat po yan sa Senate. Then it will undergo the same process po, yung first, second, third reading. Tapos tama din po yung sinabi ni Speaker Martin na i-reconcile yung differences ng both houses via the BICAM. Ang hindi lang po ako agree sa sinabi niya is number one, parang ang dating kasi sa akin ng statement niya ay wala siyang control Tapos nakadepende daw yun sa committee talaga kasi there are 100 members sa committee. So tama po yun, 100 members naman usually talaga, at least 100 yung sa Committee on Appropriations kasi of course that is a very big task considering yung budget po yan ng buong Pilipinas for a single year, 'di ba? So going back po to my point, hindi po ako agree na yung committee lang yung gumagalaw doon kasi yung reality po in the House of Representatives, yung speaker talaga, kung ano yung gusto ni speaker ay mangyayari at mangyayari po yun. Ganun po yung experience ko in the 17th Congress. So I'm not saying ganun din talaga during his time, but in the House of Representatives or in Congress in general, ang tatandaan po natin dyan ay yung tradition ay a very common thing na nasusunod usually. So kung i-base ko lang po for my personal experience na kung ano yung gusto ni speaker mangyari, nagagawa talaga, edi imposibleng wala siyang oversight doon, di ba? Tapos yung committee lang yung gumagawa. Okay? So ang next question, illegal na ba yun yung ganun sa budget stage pa lang? Hindi naman siya agad illegal or unconstitutional kasi yung pag-insert ng mga amendments or paggawa po ng mga amendments ay constitutional prerogative naman po yun ng House of Representatives. Pero ang biggest problem po talaga sa budget during the time ni Speaker Martin and the Senate nila, Senate President Chis Escudero, ay kung nakita po ninyo yung oral arguments in relation to the unprogrammed appropriations, panahon po yun ni Speaker Martin yung sumobrang taas po yung mga amendments or insertions na unprogrammed funds from the programmed unprogrammed funds. Yung ginawan ko po ng photo post, tas ginawan ko rin actually ng video discussion, kinumpare ko yung past admin na unprogrammed funds na insertions versus the administration ni PBBM. So kung napanood po ninyo yun, makikita nyo doon yung tower na yung proposed is halos ganito lang, pero yung approved sa GAA na unprogrammed appropriations is ganito. So itong sobrang taas na to, these are all amendments or insertions na nangyari in the Congress level. But in previous administrations, hindi po ganon kasi pantay lang yung programmed and yung approved na unprogrammed appropriation. So i-search nyo na lang po yun para mas maintindihan nyo yung point ko. So in very simple terms, merong mga questionable na nangyari via amendments and or insertions during the leadership ni Speaker Martin sa House of Representatives. Pero tama po siya na hindi lang yun act niya, kundi may iba pang involved kasi umaakyat nga yan dun sa Senate pa. Plus of course, yung pinaka nakatutok talaga sa budget is the chairman of the Committee on Appropriations. Okay, so yan lang po. Ngayon tuloy naman tayo dito sa next part kasi yung didiscuss niya na dito is most likely yung sa execution na po nung budget.
This is something I want the public to understand. The budget process is collective, multi-layered, and shared. Accountability must apply to everyone involved, not selectively assigned after the fact, and certainly not when it becomes politically useful. If corruption were to occur in a magnitude made known to us over the past months, then it's clear that the real corruption does not happen at the level of the general legislative approval alone. It happens at the level of execution of the General Appropriations Act. It happens when projects are implemented. It happens where projects are actually implemented, where procurement is undertaken, where monetary disbursements are actually made. And it happens when substandard projects are passed off as legitimate or when ghost projects are made to appear real. That is why command responsibility is far more logically relevant in the executive branch, where there is actually supervision, operational control, and implementation on the ground, than in the collegial legislative body, where constitutional role is deliberation and appropriation. Congress does not build flood control projects. Congress does not conduct procurement. Congress does not inspect whether a project was actually completed. Congress does not certify whether the work done was substandard or not. So if the allegation is that there was a systemic corruption in flood control implementation, then the public should ask the obvious question: where does implementation actually happen? Definitely not in the session hall of the House of Representatives. Here's the simplest way to test that theory that I am the mastermind of this scheme. If I were truly involved in a fraudulent scheme of this nature, then the first place one would expect to see that pattern would be in my own district, in the projects most easily associated with me. You would have seen it in Tacloban, but I say this with absolute certainty. You won't see it in my district. My district has 0 ghost and 0 substandard flood control projects. 0. And that is verifiable. To prove this point, I'm authorizing my staff to share and release to the public the list of all the projects in my district that the authorities may deem attributable to me. Let the public scrutinize and verify for themselves. As I already mentioned, corruption of this scale is not a one-man operation. It requires 2 things: budget decisions and implementation on the ground. With respect to how the budget was deliberated in Congress, let me say this categorically. I was not a part of the BICAM and the small committee budget deliberations. Yes, I was updated on the general outcomes of the deliberations, but I had no visibility with regard to the specific details of the discussions, including particular amendments or insertions approved during these closed-door deliberations. Records will show that I did not participate in those meetings and I was not privy to what exactly transpired during the deliberations. However, 2 people were instrumental in making those budget decisions: Chis Escudero and Zaldico. And once the budget becomes law, the work of implementing flood control projects, or any project for that matter, is solely within the purview of the executive, including the DPWH, certainly not by legislators. I understand the anger of the public.
Okay, comment muna tayo guys kasi diniscuss niya na yung execution side of the budget. So ang una pong very interesting na na-observe ko dito ay number 1, pinangalanan po niya talaga si Zaldico, diba? At si Chis Escudero na involved daw dun sa BICAM amendments and or insertions dun sa small committee. Pero hindi po niya pinangalanan yung dun sa side ng executive. However, despite him not naming, nag-mention po siya ng command responsibility. So pag command responsibility po kasi ang pinapag-usapan, that will more or less relate po to the alter ego doctrine, diba? So kung yung sa cabinet secretaries, yung functions nila ay considered as actions also of the president kasi alter ego nga lang yung mga secretary. So yan lang yung isang interesting dito. Hindi niya binanggit pero he discussed command responsibility. So pag ganyan po kasi in simple terms, magre-reflect yan dun kay PBBM kasi si PBBM naman po yung pinaka-head talaga ng executive. So siya po ang pinaka-boss talaga when it comes to the implementation of the laws natin, including the budget po natin, yung General Appropriations Act.
Implementing flood control projects, or any project for that matter, is solely within the purview of the executive, including the DPWH, certainly not by legislators. I understand the anger of the public. The Filipino people have every right to be angry because stolen public funds are taxes derived from hard-earned money. I'm not asking the public to look away. I'm asking everyone to look where the evidence points, not where it is politically convenient or politically motivated. So I ask the Ombudsman and the public these questions. Who has been named in sworn testimonies and affidavits? Whose name actually appeared in credible accounts made under oath? If there are sworn accounts pointing to other personalities across the chain, whether in budget deliberations or in implementation, then those leads must be pursued with the same seriousness and the same urgency. Accountability cannot be selective. For months, I chose silence because I believe in our legal system and in the rule of law. But my silence is now being exploited with politically engineered and fabricated narratives. What's even more disturbing, and this is something that cannot be ignored, is that there are emerging indications that certain sectors are attempting to weaponize individuals, including Zaldico, to construct a narrative that serves their own interests. So when the legal processes is being used against me as a political demolition job, then I will have no choice but to defend myself. And I will defend myself fully. I will not allow myself to be turned into the scapegoat so that others who are actually accountable can walk away clean. If this is a political play to push me out and close the story, tarnishing my name and my reputation, then I'm telling everyone now, I will not go quietly and I will not go alone. I will not be the fall guy for other people's corruption. I have been in public life long enough, I have seen enough, I have heard enough. I know many things about this current administration and past administrations as well. And I say this carefully. If this matter is to be handled as a legal issue, then let it be handled legally, soberly, and according to evidence. But if certain people insist on waging this in the court of public opinion, then I will have no choice but to defend myself publicly as well. To the Ombudsman, I say this with full respect. If your office truly believes in justice, then follow the sworn statements, follow the records, and follow the evidence all the way. Do not stop where it is politically convenient. Do not settle settle for the easiest headline. Do not confuse public pressure with prosecutorial duty. What I ask of the Office of the Ombudsman is simple. Follow the rule of law and due process. This is a serious matter, and it should be handled with seriousness, not with haste, theatrics, or shortcuts. I'm ready and willing to respond to every allegation in the proper forum, through the proper pleadings, motions, and submissions that the law allows. And to those who think they can throw me under the bus to save themselves, this is what I have to say to you. I am ready to defend my name. My silence should not be mistaken for weakness, ignorance, or fear. I know enough to defend myself, and if I am forced to do so in public, I will. Maraming salamat po. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
Okay, so comment muna tayo guys. Ang masasabi ko una, although this is irrelevant pero natutuwa lang ako considering na dalawa lang yung Tagalog sentences dito sa full statement. The rest English. Yung first sentence niya plus yung last sentence niya sa statement niya. Okay, so anyway, going back to the topic, itong last part po na pinanood natin. Quick break lang mga kasimor, gusto ko lang po magpasalamat because we have recently crossed 400,000 subscribers sa YouTube. So maraming salamat po sa mga nakasubscribe na. Thank you in advance sa mga magsasubscribe pa lang. At sa mga nanonood po ngayon, hopefully you can consider liking and subscribing this video. So tandaan po ninyo, pag sa YouTube kayo mag-subscribe, 100% free ang YouTube subscription. Okay, ngayon po, tuloy tayo sa discussion. So in summary po, yung pinaka-point ni former Speaker Martin is that, number one, hindi nga lang siya yung pinaka-mastermind nito. Meron pang other people involved, and those people that are involved ay hindi lang from the legislative kundi yung mga nasa executive din daw po, kasi in-emphasize niya, 'di ba, na yung execution ng budget is executive side. He mentioned nga po yung command responsibility, and then aside from that, mini-mention din niya na madami siyang alam not only in this administration but even in past administration. So in a way, he is implying na may mga involved din na galing sa past administration dito sa nangyayari currently sa mga unprogrammed funds and the flood control issues. Tapos nakailang ulit din po siyang mention dito sa last part na hindi daw siya papayag na gawing scapegoat. So, ibig sabihin po niyan, talagang mukhang na ipit na to si Congressman Romualdez, and that he will most likely do everything he can, may it be legally or baka via political statements, na ilaglag niya yung mga alam niyang involved dito sa issue na to. May it be from the current admin or the past admin. Kasi yun nga po, nakailang mention siya dito sa my last part na madami talaga siyang alam. Yun yung pinaka-point niya. Madami daw siyang alam talaga dito. So kung siya yung gagawing scapegoat, ay hindi daw siya papayag talaga. So yan lang naman po. Basta in conclusion ay mukhang naipit na talaga si Congressman Romualdez, si former Speaker Romualdez, at ayaw niya na siya lang yung maging scapegoat nga or yung mapagbintangan lang talaga or matapunan ng galit ng taong bayan po of the Republic of the Philippines. Okay, so ngayon po ipakita ko lang sa inyo based on news articles kung ano na ba talaga nangyari kay Cong Romualdez in relation to mga legal cases. Okay, so as of April 23, 2026, 1:03 AM, ang pinaka-development po kasi against former Speaker Romualdez ay nagkaroon na siya ng precautionary hold departure order. So when you say hold departure order, in simple terms po, ang ibig sabihin lang yan, hindi ka na pwede umalis ng Pilipinas. You are prohibited from departing via a court order. So yung nag-issue po ng court order na to is the Sandigan Bayan. Okay, and the reason po kaya yan na-issue ng Sandigan Bayan is because of this. The 7th Division of the Anti-Graft Court issued the PHDO a day after the Office of the Ombudsman announced that it sought the order. So yung Ombudsman po yung nag-request nitong hold departure order against former Speaker Romualdez. And it is because he is being investigated over complaints for alleged plunder, direct bribery, violations of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, indirect bribery, and money laundering. Kaya na-mention niya rin, di ba, dun sa last part ng video niya, si Ombudsman na dapat masunod talaga yung due process dito sa mga nangyayaring issues, walang mga abuses na mangyari. So in very simple terms po, may kaso lang na ngayon si Congressman Romualdez sa Ombudsman, although investigation stage pa lang naman. Pero yun nga po, nag-grant na yung hold departure order, therefore hindi na po makakaalis si Congressman Romualdez. So most likely po, ang tingin nga ni former speaker ay mukhang siya na talaga ang gagawing fall guy. Kaya yan, naglabas na siya ng statement nito para hindi lang tayo sa kanya magalit. So abangan po natin yung development nito, kasi I'm sure pag mas maipit pa po to si Congressman Romualdez ay mas gagawa pa to siya ng mga statements Parang yung nangyari kay Zaldico, di ba? A couple of months back, meron siyang mga post din, a series of posts via his social media account. Okay, so yan lang naman po yan. Mukhang magiging interesting na po talaga yung mga next couple of days, weeks, or months in relation to the flood control corruption issue and program funds issue. Kasi one of the alleged masterminds or yung mga tinuturo po talaga na kasama dun sa issue na to ay nagsasalita na. Tapos yung sa statement niya po to, madami siyang mga patama na mga warning po dun sa mga other parties involved and that hindi daw nga po siya papayag na siya lang ang maging fall guy or ang tapunan ng galit ng taong bayan. Okay, so yan lang po ang masasabi ko as to this issue. Hopefully klaro po yan. If you like more legal videos and current events, subscribe lang po kayo sa channel ko. And until next time, see you all po. Bye-bye!